I'm here in Hitchin Girls' School talking to Keith Fitzpatrick-Matthews, who's just given a really great talk about local archaeology. So, will you run through your job title again, because it was quite long?
Yes, it's Archaeology and Outreach Officer for North Hertfordshire Museums.
Okay, and what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
At the moment, I'm helping to put together the new museum, which is going to be opening in Hitchin next year. So an awful lot of my time is actually based around writing labels and checking objects that are going into cases. However, when I get the opportunity, I like to go out and dig holes and discover things.
So we're in Hitchin, which is a lovely little town in North Hertfordshire, but I know that some of the people who watch Classics Confidential do come from, well, much further afield. So if you had to kind of describe Hitchin and pick out its distinctive classical characteristics, what would you say?
Hitchin, on the surface, is a typical small medieval market town with an exceptionally large church, but once you start scratching below the surface, you discover that actually it originates a lot earlier than we used to suspect, that the archaeology suggests it has late Roman origins and has grown from there. And this, at the moment, appears to be unique. I can't think of anywhere else in England where we have this sort of history. What the evidence suggests is that at the time of the Roman conquest in the early 1st century AD, Hitchin consists of a series of small farmsteads, perhaps a few hamlets, probably strung out along a road that runs down the hill from where the girls' school is, across the river and out to the springs at Orton Head, to the west of the town. During the 3rd and 4th centuries, these scattered settlements begin to coalesce at the foot of the hill. We don't know why it happens then, and it's a very unusual time for this to be happening. But what we've got is evidence that a new road is laid out along what is now Queen Street and Windbush Road, that runs through the town. It's at the foot of the hill. That runs at right angles to the Hollow Lane Road, and at the crossroads a community begins to develop, and that community exists over many centuries, survives the fall of Rome, and by the 7th century we hear in documents about a people called the Hitchin, who are a people of Midland England who clearly give their name to the town of Hitchin, and whose name is not Anglo-Saxon, which is something that has long been a puzzle. What the archaeology begins to suggest is that in fact it's the indigenous British population surviving the collapse of Roman rule, continuing to live in their settlement, perhaps even expanding it, and establishing an ecclesiastical centre here, so that by the 7th century it's become the centre of a small kingdom, which we now think of as Anglo-Saxon. These people probably didn't think in terms like that. They just thought of themselves as the Hitchin. And by the end of the 7th century, there is a suggestion that Hitchin has become the site of an annual church synod at a place that Anglo-Saxon documents call Cloveshough. This, I think, is the name of the settlement at the foot of the hill that has developed as people have moved from speaking the language which became Welsh to the language which became English. And this is under the influence of Saxon settlers from the 5th century onwards. But the people themselves are the descendants of local Britons. So this is so unusual. It's really quite a convincing story, and the archaeology is complex but supports this view of the origins of the town.